Back in the 2010s, dystopian YA books were getting lots of adaptations on the big screen, and that trend was mainly started by The Hunger Games. I personally quite like Hunger Games and Hunger Games Catching Fire, but like many, I think splitting the last book into a two-parter just because Harry Potter did it successfully was a mistake, and it makes the finale drag and both parts come out feeling boring and aimless. So, nearly a decade later, there's a prequel, and I quite liked it. It's a lot better than the Mockingjay films, and I'm not sure how it stacks up against the first film. I need to rewatch it. Catching Fire is still my favourite, but yeah, it was really enjoyable. It very much feels like just a part of the series, which is helped by it being the same director as Catching Fire and the Mockingjay films. So, it doesn't feel like a strange kind of, years later they bring back the series, but it doesn't feel like part of the same series. It's very much a new Hunger Games film. It feels very tied in to the rest of the series. It's a good addition in that sense. I think it deepens the understanding of President Snow in the first films, because now he's a bit less of just like a conniving villain. There's a bit more to him because you understand his motivations and what he's been through in the past, and I really think that will elevate the first 4 films a lot more if I ever go back to watch them. The action's really enjoyable. The actual Hunger Games are great as always. In general though, I like kind of seeing how the Hunger Games was way back when compared to the modern, more high-tech, futuristic Hunger Games films. And the arena and the Game Maker's toolkit just being so over the top and high-tech sci-fi compared to this kind of close to real life in our past as well, period kind of thing. The setting felt realistic in its history leading up to what we've seen, and just seeing all the elements be introduced into the Hunger Games that we know as just a given. Overall, I don't have a lot to say other than the fact that I liked it. I think it was a little long. I think you could have trimmed quite a bit from it, but then again, I know that there's more that could have been done because the books are there's always going to be so much in a book that you don't fit in, and I've seen that there's certain characters that aren't even in this, and maybe I'll get around to reading the book one day because I've read the first trilogy way back when. But I do think that because of that, it does feel like it's dragging a bit. But I kind of like that because then you get a lot more from the characters and the ending impacts you way more because of that. Lucy Gray as a protagonist is really interesting. I think she's very different to Katniss but has some of those same qualities of just, like a likable protagonist. Snow as also probably more, well, he is more of the protagonist, is very interesting, especially because he's the villain of the first films. That is the point, obviously, but it works well and I like it, and I like seeing the transition to really seeing, oh yeah, that's the villain from the first movie, after kind of liking him throughout. I really like that. It kind of plays with your expectations and your emotions, and you kind of think, wait, yeah, why have I been rooting for this guy? But then you still think, but I like him because he did this and this and he's still kind of okay. Oh no, he just did this, and it's all over the place, and I like that. Very enjoyable, a good addition to the lore, I guess, and just the world of Panem and the Hunger Games, and I feel like it deepens this series. And I do appreciate that the director said, in answer to a question, I think it was about whether they would do a spin-off show or something about the Hunger Games, he specifically stated he'll only make a movie or direct a movie again in the Hunger Games world if Suzanne Collins writes a book about it first, which makes perfect sense. And I think for that reason, that's why this film felt so in line. It's because it's based off another book written by Suzanne, not just let's just fanfic and just think of some stuff. And then on top of that, it was directed by the same guy. So because of that, I would love to see more prequels, more past Hunger Games, specifically the one Haymitch. I feel like that's the one everyone wants to see, or Finnick's Hunger Games. Just do what you want as long as Suzanne writes the book first, and go from there. I think it would be interesting if there was a show, but again, it's just whether Suzanne writes a book that would make more sense as a TV show, or just whatever. Don't force her to make a book so then you can make something out of it. Just see how it goes, because it took a while for Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes to come out, and then as a book, and then when it did, then there was a movement about it. It wasn't like, okay Suzanne, we just finished the films, can you make us a prequel, and then we'll make it into a movie, just so it looks like we're just doing it based on the time came. No, it just happened to come about, and I think that's really cool. Enjoyable film. I think it was a bit too long, but I liked it. One last thing I'll say though is that In the past Hunger Games films, once they enter the arena, it's all from the perspective of the person in the arena, and from there on out, it's like, you know, that's what it is. It's like a battle royale film from there on out. Because of this film kind of going to and from the actual Hunger Games to focus on Snow, and it's set like the Hunger Games last quite a long time, it kind of breaks up the flow, but I still liked it. So yeah, it's an interesting film. It's alright, but overall I liked it, and because of that, I'm going to give it a curry rice.